Lila lived a quiet life in a small town where everyone knew each other by name. She had always been simple, never one to seek attention or draw the eyes of others toward herself. Every day she would wake up early, prepare breakfast for her younger siblings, and then head to work at the local cafe. The cafe was a cozy place with the smell of fresh bread and coffee lingering in the air. Most of the townspeople were regulars, and Lila had learned each of their favorite drinks and snacks. She enjoyed the small talk with customers, the polite smiles, and the occasional joke, but she always kept herself mostly to herself. Even though she was quiet, Lila carried a secret with her. She loved to sing. Not in front of anyone, not in public, and not even for her coworkers. She would hum softly while cleaning tables, sing quietly while washing dishes, or sometimes sing along to the radio in her small room at home when no one was around. Music had always been her safe place, a private escape from the ordinary routines of life. Her voice was gentle yet surprisingly strong, capable of holding notes that could touch the heart if anyone ever heard it. But she kept it hidden, fearing attention, ridicule, or the judgment of others. She was content to let her talent exist only for herself. Life in the town was predictable. The streets were lined with small shops, bakeries, and the occasional park where children played. Neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles, and the community had a sense of familiarity that Lila appreciated. She enjoyed the small joys of life, the laughter of children, the smell of fresh flowers in the market, the warmth of the sun on her face. Yet despite the peace around her, she often felt a quiet longing. She dreamed of more, of expressing herself freely, but fear always held her back. Her family depended on her in small but meaningful ways. She helped her younger siblings with homework, cooked meals for the family, and supported her parents in their daily routines. Lila's life was simple, yet her heart carried a depth that few noticed. She was observant, noticing the little struggles and joys of the people around her. When a customer looked sad, she offered a kind word. When someone celebrated a small achievement, she smiled genuinely. Her quiet empathy made her special, even if she never realized it herself. One evening, after finishing her shift at the cafe, Lila walked home along the familiar streets. The sun was setting, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. The air was cool, carrying the distant laughter of children playing and the soft hum of life in the town. Lila felt a small sense of peace as she walked, her hands clasped in front of her. She thought about the day, about the smiles she had shared, and about the quiet joy of her secret singing. At home, she prepared a simple dinner for her family, making sure everyone had enough to eat. The conversation around the table was light and cheerful, filled with small stories from the day. Lila listened more than she spoke, nodding and offering gentle responses. After dinner, she helped her siblings with their homework, offering guidance patiently. Then when the house grew quiet, she would retreat to her room. The room was small but comfortable, with a window that looked out onto a garden. It was here in the quiet of her room that she felt most herself. She would open her notebook, scribble down thoughts or lyrics, and sing softly, letting the music fill the space around her. Despite her quiet nature, Lila's life had moments of small excitement. The town occasionally held events, fairs, or small performances where locals could showcase their talents. Lila watched from the sidelines, enjoying the music, the laughter, and the applause for others always remaining in the background. She admired the performers and sometimes imagined herself on the stage, her voice reaching the crowd. But the thought of actually performing made her nervous. She had never been encouraged to share her talent, and the fear of failure or mockery kept her silent. Her best friend, Anya, knew a little about her love for singing. Anya often encouraged Lila to sing, even if just for her, but Lila always hesitated. She trusted Anya but still felt exposed at the thought of anyone else hearing her voice. Anya would sometimes joke, telling Lila that her voice could light up a room, but Lila would laugh nervously and change the subject. The truth was, she did not yet believe in herself enough to let others hear the gift she carried. One weekend, the town announced a local talent event at the community center. It was meant to be a fun gathering, a chance for neighbors to showcase their skills from singing and dancing to magic tricks and comedy. Posters went up around the town and excitement began to build. Lila walked past one of the posters on her way home, reading the details. She felt a small flutter of curiosity but quickly shook it off. Participating seemed impossible. She had never performed in public, and the idea made her anxious. Meanwhile, some of the townspeople familiar with Lila's quiet and reserved nature saw her as an easy target for amusement. A few pranksters jokingly suggested that she should sing at the event, assuming she would be too shy or awkward to do it well. They laughed among themselves, thinking it would be funny to put her on stage. Lila overheard some of the whispers but tried to ignore them, her cheeks flushing with embarrassment. She wanted nothing to do with their teasing and wished they would focus on themselves instead. Days passed and the event grew closer. Lila continued her daily routines, her thoughts occasionally drifting to the upcoming talent show. She tried to convince herself that it was not her concern, that she had no reason to participate, yet a small part of her wondered what it might feel like to actually sing in front of people, to see their reactions, to let her voice be heard. She pushed the thought away, fearing the humiliation that might follow if she failed. The morning of the event arrived and the town buzzed with excitement. Lila went about her usual tasks, serving coffee and breakfast at the cafe, greeting familiar faces, and performing her daily routines. The community center filled with townspeople, laughter, and music. Performers rehearsed, adjusting microphones and warming up their voices. The atmosphere was light and festive, filled with anticipation. Lila watched from the sidelines, her heart beating faster than usual. She felt a mixture of curiosity and anxiety, observing others perform with ease and confidence. Some of the performers were children, their small voices clear and sweet. Others were adults, their experience showing in polished performances. Lila felt both admiration and a pang of longing. She knew she could sing like this, perhaps even better, but the fear of stepping forward held her back. As the event progressed, the pranksters found their moment. They called out Lila, insisting she sing, thinking it would be amusing to put her on stage. Lila froze, her face turning red as all eyes turned toward her. She felt a rush of panic and embarrassment. The laughter of the pranksters echoed in her ears, and for a moment, she wished she could disappear. Anya, sensing Lila's discomfort, nudged her gently, offering a reassuring smile. She whispered that it was okay, that she could do it, that this was her moment if she wanted it to be. Lila felt a wave of conflicting emotions, fear, hesitation, and an unexpected flicker of courage. She realized that she had always let fear control her choices, keeping her hidden and quiet. This was a chance to step forward, even if just for a moment, to embrace the voice she had kept locked away for so long. Taking a deep breath, Lila slowly walked toward the stage. Her hands trembled slightly, but she held her head high. The pranksters smirked, anticipating embarrassment, while the crowd murmured in curiosity. Lila stepped up to the microphone, feeling the weight of the room's attention. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting the familiar comfort of her secret singing fill her with strength. When she opened her mouth to sing, the first notes were soft, tentative, almost as if she were testing the waters. But even in those first moments, the clarity and power of her voice began to shine through. The crowd quieted, sensing something unexpected. Lila's nerves remained, but the music carried her forward, allowing her to forget the teasing and focus only on the song. As she continued, her voice grew stronger, richer, and more confident. Every note was precise, every word full of emotion. The pranksters' smirks faded as they realized that this was no ordinary performance. Lila's singing captured the attention of everyone in the room, leaving them mesmerized. The simple woman, once so quiet and reserved, was now commanding the stage with a voice that no one could ignore. For Lila, the experience was both terrifying and exhilarating. She had stepped out of the shadows and for the first time allowed herself to shine. The applause that followed was not just for her talent, but for her courage, her willingness to rise above fear, and her ability to transform a moment of mockery into something beautiful. By the end of the day, Lila had discovered something profound. She realized that her voice was not just a private joy, but a gift that could touch hearts and inspire others. The quiet life she had always cherished could coexist with the power of her talent, and she no longer needed to hide. Lila's journey had only just begun, but in that small community center, she had taken the first step toward embracing her true self, leaving everyone around her stunned and inspired by the simple woman who could sing like no one had expected. The day after the talent event, Lila woke up feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Her performance had left the townspeople talking, and word of her voice had spread quickly. Some neighbors stopped by the cafe to compliment her, while others whispered among themselves about the surprising talent of the quiet woman who had always stayed in the background. Lila felt both proud and anxious. She was proud of herself for stepping onto the stage, but anxious about the attention that now seemed to follow her everywhere she went. At the cafe, the morning rush felt different. Customers who had previously greeted her casually now lingered a little longer, curious to hear more about her performance. Some asked if she would sing again, and Lila, though flustered, smiled politely and avoided giving a clear answer. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, and it made her feel vulnerable in a way she hadn't experienced before. Her coworkers noticed the change too. They were impressed by her courage, and a few joked about expecting a weekly concert, making her laugh nervously. Despite the newfound attention, Lila tried to keep her life as normal as possible. She continued her routine, helping her family, serving customers at the cafe, and keeping her small room organized. Yet, in quiet moments, she found herself replaying the performance in her mind, remembering the feeling of her voice filling the room and the stunned expressions of the audience. She realized how much she had wanted to be heard, even if she had not admitted it to herself before. Meanwhile, the pranksters who had tried to humiliate her were dealing with unexpected feelings of embarrassment. They had assumed her performance would be awkward and amusing, but instead they had witnessed something remarkable. A few of them, feeling guilty, approached Lila quietly, offering hesitant apologies. Lila, surprised by their sincerity, accepted their apologies graciously, her gentle nature shining through. She had no desire to hold grudges, and this gesture made her feel a small sense of relief and closure. The news of Lila's talent soon reached beyond the town. A local journalist had attended the talent event and written a short piece highlighting the extraordinary voice of the simple woman who had captivated everyone. The article was shared online, and soon strangers from nearby towns began commenting on her performance, expressing amazement and curiosity. Lila felt overwhelmed by the attention, unsure how to respond to the messages, but she also felt a quiet excitement at the thought that her singing could reach people she had never met. Amid all this, Lila received an unexpected invitation. A music teacher from a nearby city had seen the article and wanted to offer her training and guidance. Lila hesitated at first. She had never considered pursuing music seriously, believing it was a private joy meant only for herself. Yet the idea of learning and improving her talent also sparked a sense of possibility she had never felt before. After discussing it with Anya, who encouraged her wholeheartedly, Lila decided to accept the offer. She knew it would require effort and courage, but something inside her whispered that this was the right step. The next weeks were a whirlwind of change. Lila traveled to the city for her first lessons, leaving behind the comfort of her small town. The music teacher, a kind and patient woman, recognized Lila's raw talent immediately. She helped Lila refine her voice, teaching her techniques she had never known, guiding her to control her pitch, breathing, and expression. Lila practiced diligently, often until her voice was tired, but she felt alive in a way she had never experienced. Each lesson built her confidence and strengthened her connection to the music she loved. Back in her town, life continued, but Lila's absence was noticed. People spoke of her performances and the dedication she was showing in the city. The cafe was quieter without her, and her family missed her presence, though they supported her journey wholeheartedly. Lila often called home to share her progress, and the joy in her family's voices reminded her why she had started this journey in the first place. She wanted to make them proud, but more importantly, she wanted to honor the gift she had always kept hidden. As Lila's skills improved, she began to understand the depth of her own talent. She realized that her voice was not just a personal joy, but a tool that could touch hearts, convey emotion, and tell stories. Her confidence grew, and she started to imagine herself performing for larger audiences, not out of a desire for fame, but to share the beauty of music and the emotions it could evoke. The thought of stepping onto bigger stages was both thrilling and terrifying, but she felt ready to embrace it. One day, while practicing in the city, Lila received an invitation to perform at a local festival. The opportunity was significant, a chance to sing in front of a larger crowd than she had ever faced before. She felt a surge of fear, but also a deep sense of determination. This was another step in her journey, another chance to prove to herself that she could rise above fear and shine. She accepted the invitation, knowing that the experience would challenge her in ways she had never imagined. As the festival approached, Lila continued to practice tirelessly. She experimented with different songs, explored new styles, and focused on expressing genuine emotion through her music. She learned that singing was not just about hitting the right notes, but about connecting with the audience, telling a story, and letting the heart guide the voice. Each practice session brought new discoveries, new challenges, and new moments of joy. Lila felt herself growing not only as a singer, but as a person, learning courage, patience, and the power of self-belief. When the day of the festival arrived, Lila felt a familiar mix of excitement and anxiety. The crowd was larger than anything she had encountered, and the energy in the air was electric. She took a deep breath, remembering her first performance at the community center, and allowed the memory to steady her nerves. She stepped onto the stage, her hands slightly trembling but her voice strong and clear. As she began to sing, the audience listened in awe. The emotions in her voice carried across the festival grounds, capturing the attention of everyone present. Lila's performance was not just about technical skill. It was about honesty, vulnerability, and the connection between her and the listeners. People were moved, some visibly wiping away tears, others nodding in appreciation of the raw emotion and power of her voice. Lila felt a profound sense of fulfillment, realizing that her singing had the ability to create a shared experience, touching hearts and leaving lasting impressions. After the performance, Lila received praise from strangers and friends alike. The festival organizers expressed interest in inviting her back, and other performers congratulated her on her talent and stage presence. Lila felt a quiet sense of pride. She had faced her fears, embraced her gift, and shared it with the world. Yet she remained humble, knowing that her journey was just beginning and that there was still much to learn and explore. Returning to her town after the festival, Lila noticed subtle changes in the way people looked at her. There was newfound respect and admiration, but also curiosity. She continued to live simply, helping her family, working at the cafe, and remaining grounded. But her experiences had changed her. She walked with a little more confidence, spoke with a little more assurance, and carried herself with the quiet strength of someone who had discovered their own power. Lila's journey was not without challenges. She faced moments of self-doubt, exhaustion, and fear. There were times when she wondered if she was ready for the attention, for the expectations, for the responsibility of sharing her gift. But each time she reminded herself of the joy singing brought her, the way it connected her to others, and the courage she had found within herself. Those reminders carried her forward, helping her navigate the uncertainties of a life now touched by her talent. Through it all, Lila never lost sight of her roots. She remained the same simple, kind-hearted woman who had always lived quietly, helping her family and caring for those around her. But now she also carried the knowledge that she was capable of extraordinary things. Her voice, once hidden and private, had become a symbol of strength, courage, and the unexpected power that lies within ordinary people. As the weeks turned into months, Lila continued to balance her everyday life with her growing musical journey. She practiced diligently, performed when opportunities arose, and embraced the experiences that came her way. She learned to navigate the delicate balance between humility and confidence, understanding that her talent was not a reason for pride, but a responsibility to share and inspire. Each performance, each new audience, and each challenge became a stepping stone, helping her grow not only as a singer but as a person who had learned to face fear and embrace the extraordinary within herself. Months passed, and Lila's life continued to shift in ways she had never imagined. Her talent had become a quiet force that touched not only her town, but also people from neighboring areas. Invitations to perform in small events, local gatherings, and even private functions started to arrive. Each invitation brought a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Lila had grown in confidence, yet she still felt nervous before each performance, as though her heart was reminding her how far she had come from the timid, reserved woman she once was. One afternoon, she received an invitation to sing at a charity event in a nearby town. The event was larger than any she had experienced since the festival. It would be held in a community hall, filled with people who had never heard her sing before. Lila's first reaction was hesitation. She knew that the stakes were higher, and that the audience would have expectations. Yet a part of her whispered that this was another step in her journey, a chance to share her voice, to inspire and to embrace her courage. She accepted the invitation, determined to rise to the occasion. In the days leading up to the event, Lila practiced tirelessly. She experimented with different songs, adjusted her breathing, and explored ways to express the emotions she wanted to convey. Every note was a careful choice, every pause deliberate. Her music teacher helped her refine the details, encouraging her to trust her instincts and to connect with the audience from the heart. Lila began to understand that singing was more than hitting notes. It was about telling a story, conveying feelings, and creating a shared experience. Each practice session strengthened her resolve and deepened her connection to her talent. On the day of the charity event, Lila felt the familiar flutter of nerves. She walked into the hall early, observing the crowd as they arrived. The space was larger, the lights brighter, and the energy palpable. Volunteers and organizers moved around, preparing for the event, and performers warmed up in the background. Lila took a deep breath, steadying herself, remembering her first performance at the community center. That memory gave her courage, reminding her of the power she had found within herself when she first stepped onto a stage. When it was her turn, Lila walked onto the stage, her hands slightly trembling but her head held high. The microphone felt cool in her grip, and the spotlight highlighted her presence. The audience was silent, waiting, curious to see what the simple woman who had captured hearts with her voice would do. Lila closed her eyes for a brief moment, letting the familiar comfort of singing envelop her. She thought of the journey that had brought her here, the quiet days in her town, the encouragement of her friend, the lessons she had learned, and the fear she had overcome. She opened her mouth and the first note emerged clear and pure. As she sang, the audience was immediately captivated. The song was gentle at first, then swelled with emotion, carrying a story of hope, resilience, and quiet strength. Lila's voice had grown richer, fuller, and more expressive than ever before. Each note seemed to resonate not only in the hall but also in the hearts of those listening. The pranksters from her town, who had once tried to mock her, were present in the audience. They exchanged glances, stunned and ashamed, realizing that their assumptions had been entirely wrong. Lila's performance was not just a display of talent, but a demonstration of courage, self-belief, and the unexpected power of someone who had always been underestimated. The applause that followed was overwhelming. Lila felt a mix of relief, joy, and pride. She had shared a piece of herself, her voice reaching beyond the ordinary, touching people who had never known her story. She realized that her talent was not just a gift for herself, but a bridge to connect with others, to inspire, and to show that even the quietest individuals can have a profound impact. The audience's reactions were heartfelt, and some approached her afterward to express how deeply they had been moved. Lila listened with humility, feeling a warmth she had never known, the realization that her voice had the power to reach far beyond the walls of her own life. Returning to her town, Lila found that her life had subtly shifted again. People looked at her with respect, admiration, and curiosity. She continued to work at the cafe and help her family, maintaining her simple lifestyle, but she carried a new sense of self-assurance. Lila had learned that it was possible to be humble and extraordinary at the same time. She no longer feared the judgment of others, knowing that the power of her talent and her courage could speak for itself. Yet the attention also brought challenges. Some people expected her to perform frequently, while others questioned why she had waited so long to share her voice. Lila faced the delicate task of balancing her life, her personal time, and her growing musical journey. She learned to set boundaries, to choose opportunities wisely, and to protect the quiet space that allowed her creativity to flourish. Through this balance, she discovered a deeper sense of control and understanding of what it meant to embrace her gift responsibly. Lila's family continued to be her anchor. They supported her growth and celebrated each achievement, reminding her of the importance of staying grounded. Her younger siblings looked up to her, inspired by her courage and determination. Lila realized that her journey was not just about her own growth, but also about being a role model, showing those around her that fear and doubt could be overcome. She took this responsibility seriously, approaching each performance and opportunity with care, dedication, and thoughtfulness. During this period, Lila also encountered others who had hidden talents, individuals who, like her, had lived quietly, unsure of their own potential. She began encouraging them, sharing her experiences, and helping them find the courage to step forward. Lila discovered that her journey was not just about personal achievement, but about creating a ripple effect, inspiring others to embrace their abilities and to trust themselves. She became a quiet mentor, a source of support, and an example of what it meant to rise above fear and doubt. One evening, after a particularly moving performance at a small community gathering, Lila walked home beneath the soft glow of the streetlights. The air was cool, carrying the faint scent of flowers from nearby gardens. She reflected on how much had changed in the past months. The timid, reserved woman who had once been afraid to sing in front of others was no longer defined by fear. She had discovered courage, resilience, and the profound impact of her talent. Each step she took felt lighter, each breath more confident, and each day held the promise of new possibilities. Even with all the recognition, Lila remained true to her roots. She continued to find joy in small, everyday moments. The laughter of her siblings, the smell of fresh coffee in the cafe, the quiet beauty of the town she loved. She understood that her extraordinary talent did not change who she was. It amplified the kindness, humility, and empathy that had always been at the core of her being. Lila's story became a testament to the power of embracing one's true self, showing that greatness can emerge from the most ordinary of places. As time went on, more opportunities arose for Lila. Invitations to perform at larger events, collaborations with musicians, and even requests for recordings started to arrive. Lila approached each new experience with thoughtfulness, considering how it aligned with her values and the message she wanted to convey. She learned to navigate the complexities of growing recognition, while maintaining the authenticity that had made her voice so compelling in the first place. Through this careful balance, she continued to grow, both as an artist and as a person, never losing sight of the quiet strength that had carried her from the shadows to the spotlight. Lila also found moments of reflection, understanding the journey she had traveled. From the first timid steps onto the stage to the powerful performances that now captivated audiences, she had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. Each challenge, each moment of self-doubt had shaped her, strengthening her resolve and deepening her connection to her music. She realized that the journey itself was as valuable as the destination, and that every experience contributed to the person she had become. Through her growing confidence and expanding influence, Lila became a source of inspiration in her town and beyond. People admired not only her talent, but also her humility, resilience, and the way she had embraced her fears to reach her potential. Lila's story reminded others that even the quietest, simplest individuals could hold extraordinary gifts, and that courage, determination, and self-belief could transform lives. Her journey continued, filled with music, challenges, growth, and the quiet joy of knowing that she had found her voice and the courage to let it be heard. Lila's life continued to shift as her voice began to open doors she had never imagined. After months of performing in small towns and festivals, she received an invitation to sing at a larger cultural event in the city. The event promised a crowd much bigger than anything she had faced before, and with it came a mix of excitement and nervousness. Lila knew this was an important step, not just for her career but for her own growth. She had learned to embrace her talent, yet every new stage tested her courage in a fresh way. In preparation, Lila dedicated herself fully to practice. She woke up early, warmed up her voice, and spent hours perfecting her songs. Her music teacher continued to guide her, offering tips on projecting her voice, improving clarity, and expressing emotion. Lila experimented with different styles, blending softness and power, learning to balance vulnerability with confidence. The process was tiring but deeply satisfying, and she discovered new layers of her talent she had never explored before. Days before the event, Lila felt a mixture of anticipation and fear. She knew that the city crowd would be different from her small-town audiences, more discerning, less forgiving, and full of expectations. She questioned herself, wondering if she was truly ready. The doubts crept in during quiet moments, but each time she remembered her first performance, she found reassurance. She thought of the moment when her voice had silenced the teasing and amazed everyone. That memory gave her courage and reminded her that she could face new challenges and still shine. On the day of the event, the city was bustling with energy. Lila arrived early, navigating unfamiliar streets and towering buildings. The cultural center was grand, filled with lights, decorations, and a large stage that made her heart race. Volunteers were busy with last-minute arrangements, sound checks, and guiding performers. Lila took a moment to breathe, observing the crowd gathering in the auditorium. Faces from all walks of life filled the seats, many of them strangers who had never heard her sing. The magnitude of the moment hit her, and for a brief second, fear threatened to take over. But she reminded herself of the journey that had brought her here and took another deep breath. Steadying herself, when her turn arrived, Lila stepped onto the stage with trembling hands, the bright lights illuminating her figure. The microphone felt familiar now, yet the vastness of the room made her heart pound. She could hear the low murmur of the crowd as everyone settled into their seats, waiting for the performance to begin. Lila closed her eyes briefly, letting the sound of her own breath and heartbeat remind her that she was ready. Then she began to sing. The first notes were soft, carrying warmth and emotion. The audience immediately quieted, drawn into the story her voice was telling. As she sang, her confidence grew, and the voice that had once been hidden in the corners of her home filled the grand auditorium. Every note was deliberate, every pause meaningful. Lila's performance was a mixture of technical skill and heartfelt expression. She sang not to impress but to connect, to share a piece of herself with everyone listening. As the song progressed, the audience became captivated. People leaned forward, their eyes fixed on her, as if trying to absorb every moment. The sound of her voice carried across the room, reaching ears far away from the stage. Lila felt a sense of liberation, the culmination of years of quiet practice, fear, and courage all converging in this moment. She was no longer just the simple woman from a small town. She was a performer, a storyteller, and a conduit of emotion through music. After the final note, there was a brief moment of silence, as if the audience was collectively processing what they had just witnessed. Then applause erupted, filling the auditorium with claps, cheers, and whistles. Lila felt her heart swell with a mixture of relief, joy, and pride. She had done it. She had faced a larger crowd, new challenges, and her own self-doubt, and she had succeeded. The feeling was intoxicating, yet she remained humble, knowing that each performance was a step in a larger journey. In the days that followed, Lila received praise from organizers, fellow performers, and audience members alike. People approached her to share how her singing had touched them, how it had stirred emotions they hadn't expected to feel. Lila listened with gratitude, absorbing each compliment while remaining grounded. She realized that her gift was not only for personal fulfillment, but also a means to inspire and connect with others. Every story shared by her audience deepened her understanding of the power of music and the impact of authenticity. Despite the growing recognition, Lila remained committed to her roots. She continued to help her family, work at the cafe, and enjoy the small moments of life she had always cherished. Yet she also embraced the opportunities that her talent afforded her. She performed at events, collaborated with other musicians, and occasionally traveled to nearby towns to share her voice. Each new experience brought its own lessons and joys, helping her grow not only as a singer, but as a person who had learned to balance humility with confidence. Lila also began mentoring others who shared her quiet love for music. She met individuals who had talent but lacked the confidence to share it publicly. She encouraged them to take small steps, to practice diligently, and to trust their instincts. Lila's own journey became a source of inspiration, showing that talent combined with courage could lead to extraordinary experiences. She found fulfillment not only in her own growth, but in helping others discover and embrace their potential. One evening, after a particularly moving performance at a city event, Lila walked through the quiet streets on her way home. The night air was cool, carrying the faint scent of flowers from nearby gardens. She reflected on how much had changed in a short period of time. The timid, reserved woman who had once feared public attention had become someone who faced challenges with determination and courage. She had learned to embrace both her talent and her fear, understanding that they were intertwined and that growth came from stepping into the unknown. Lila's story began to spread further, inspiring people outside her immediate community. Strangers who had watched videos of her performances online expressed admiration for her voice and her journey. Lila was touched by the messages, grateful that her singing could reach people she had never met. She realized that her journey was no longer solely about personal growth. It was about making a positive impact, however small, on the lives of others. Through it all, Lila remained humble. knowing that her success was not just the result of talent but also of courage, perseverance, and support from those around her. Her family continued to be her anchor, offering love, guidance, and encouragement. Her friend Anya remained a steadfast source of reassurance, celebrating each achievement and helping Lila navigate moments of doubt. Lila understood that her journey was built not only on her own efforts but also on the kindness and support of others. As her experiences grew, Lila also learned to manage the pressures that came with recognition. She set boundaries, choosing performances that aligned with her values and taking time to rest and recharge. She understood that sustaining her talent required care for both her physical and emotional well-being. Lila developed a sense of balance, ensuring that her love for music remained joyful and meaningful. Rather than burdensome or stressful, her journey continued to unfold, filled with opportunities, challenges, and moments of profound connection. Each performance, each audience, and each new experience became a stepping stone, shaping her into a stronger, more confident individual. Lila realized that her life had transformed in ways she could not have imagined. Yet she remained true to herself, grounded in humility, kindness, and the simple joys of everyday life. Through all these experiences, Lila came to understand the deeper meaning of her journey. She had discovered that courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it. She had learned that talent alone was not enough. It required perseverance, dedication, and the willingness to embrace opportunities. Most importantly, she realized that the simplest, quietest people often hold the most extraordinary gifts, capable of inspiring, connecting, and leaving a lasting impact on the world around them. As she prepared for future performances and continued to nurture her growing musical career, Lila carried with her the lessons of her journey. She understood that every challenge, every moment of doubt, and every performance contributed to her growth. She remained committed to her roots, her family, and her community, knowing that true success was not measured by fame or recognition, but by the ability to remain grounded, authentic, and connected to oneself and others. Lila's story continued to unfold, a testament to the power of courage, perseverance, and the extraordinary potential hidden within the most ordinary of people. As Lila's journey continued, she began to see the impact of her voice in ways she had never imagined. Each performance became more than just a song. It became a story, a shared moment with her audience. She noticed the way people's eyes would light up when she sang, the way some would hold their breath, and the quiet tears that occasionally appeared on cheeks during particularly emotional songs. Lila realized that her gift was not just a talent, but a bridge to connect hearts and inspire those around her. The idea that her voice could touch strangers as deeply as it touched her own soul filled her with both awe and responsibility. Life had changed for Lila, yet she remained grounded. She continued to help her family, maintain her routines, and find joy in simple pleasures like cooking meals, tending to her small garden, and sharing quiet moments with friends. Despite her growing recognition, she did not let it alter the core of who she was. Lila understood that her voice, while extraordinary, was only one part of her life. She nurtured the balance between her talent and her personal world, knowing that both were essential to her happiness. One afternoon, she received a special invitation to perform at a regional cultural festival. This event was even larger than the city performances she had attended before, attracting people from multiple towns. Lila felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She knew the audience would be unfamiliar with her story, and the stage itself seemed daunting. Yet she also felt a deep sense of determination. This was another opportunity to share her music and, more importantly, to embrace the courage she had cultivated over the past months. In the days leading up to the festival, Lila dedicated herself to preparation. She rehearsed tirelessly, exploring ways to convey emotion more deeply and to connect with the audience through her performance. Her music teacher continued to offer guidance, emphasizing the importance of authenticity and presence. Lila practiced breathing techniques, vocal control, and stage movement, realizing that every detail mattered when sharing a story through song. Each rehearsal strengthened her confidence and helped her trust in her own abilities. On the day of the festival, Lila arrived early, observing the bustling activity as performers prepared and organizers finalized the arrangements. The cultural center was grand, filled with the sounds of music, laughter, and chatter. People streamed in from surrounding towns, filling the seats with anticipation, Lila felt a flutter in her chest, a mix of excitement and anxiety. She reminded herself of the path she had walked, the quiet beginnings, the first timid performance, and the growing confidence that had brought her here. This memory grounded her, offering reassurance and strength. When it was her turn, Lila stepped onto the stage. The bright lights illuminated her and the microphone felt familiar in her hand. She looked out at the crowd, noting the diverse faces before her, each one expectant and attentive. Lila closed, her eyes for a brief moment centering herself, and then began to sing. The first notes flowed smoothly, gentle yet full of emotion, immediately drawing the audience in. She sang not for applause or recognition, but to share a piece of her heart, to tell a story through melody and words. As Lila continued, her voice filled the vast space, resonating with clarity and power. Every note carried her journey, the fear she had faced, the courage she had discovered, and the joy of embracing her talent. The audience responded with rapt attention, captivated by the honesty and emotion in her singing. Some were visibly moved, others simply listened in awe, fully absorbed in the experience. Lila felt a deep connection with the crowd, realizing that music could create an invisible thread linking hearts together, even among strangers. When the final note lingered and faded, there was a moment of stunned silence, followed by a powerful wave of applause. People rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, and whistling in appreciation. Lila felt a surge of emotions: relief, pride, joy, and gratitude. She had shared herself completely and had been embraced by the audience. This experience reinforced her understanding that her voice was not just a personal gift, but a means to touch and inspire others. The applause was not just recognition of her talent, but acknowledgement of her courage, resilience, and authenticity. After the performance, many audience members approached Lila to express their appreciation. Some shared personal stories of how her singing had affected them, offering heartfelt thanks and admiration. Lila listened with humility, absorbing each comment while maintaining her grounded nature. She understood that her journey was meaningful not only because of her talent, but because she had chosen to embrace it fully, despite fear and self-doubt. The impact of her music on others affirmed the path she had taken and encouraged her to continue sharing her voice. Returning home after the festival, Lila reflected on how far she had come. The shy, quiet woman who had once been forced onto a stage to be mocked had grown into someone capable of facing immense crowds and sharing her heart through song. She understood the transformative power of courage and self-belief, recognizing that talent alone was not enough. It required the willingness to confront fear, to embrace vulnerability, and to trust oneself. Lila felt a profound sense of accomplishment, not for the recognition, but for the personal growth and the connections she had forged through music. Life after the festival continued with a blend of everyday routines and musical opportunities. Lila maintained her work at the cafe and her role in supporting her family, finding comfort in the familiar while exploring the extraordinary possibilities of her talent. She also began mentoring other young people who showed musical potential but lacked confidence. Sharing her experiences, offering guidance, and encouraging them to take small steps to embrace their abilities became another form of fulfillment. Lila discovered joy not only in performing, but in helping others realize their own potential, creating a ripple effect of inspiration. Over time, Lila received invitations to perform at larger venues, collaborate with other musicians, and participate in regional projects. Each new experience brought its own challenges, but she faced them with a growing sense of confidence and self-awareness. She understood the importance of balance, ensuring that her personal life, her responsibilities, and her mental well-being remained strong, even as her musical journey expanded. Lila's humility and grounded nature allowed her to navigate this growth with grace, maintaining the authenticity that made her performances so compelling. Through all these experiences, Lila continued to reflect on her journey. She remembered the first moment she had been forced to sing, the fear that had consumed her, and the unexpected awe that had followed. Those memories were a reminder of how far she had come and how much courage she had discovered within herself. She understood that the journey was ongoing, that there would always be challenges, and that each step forward was a choice to embrace her potential and continue growing. Lila's story also became a source of inspiration for her community. People admired her not only for her talent, but for her humility, resilience, and willingness to face fear. Her journey reminded others that even the quietest, simplest individuals could possess extraordinary gifts, and that embracing one's abilities with courage and authenticity could lead to remarkable experiences. Lila had become a symbol of hope and inspiration, showing that talent, perseverance, and self-belief could transform lives, both her own and the lives of those she touched. As the years passed, Lila continued to sing, perform, and inspire. She remained connected to her roots, cherishing the simplicity of life in her town, the warmth of family, and the support of close friends. At the same time, she embraced the opportunities that her talent had brought, sharing her voice with larger audiences and connecting with people far beyond her hometown. Her journey was a testament to the power of courage, perseverance, and the unexpected strength within ordinary individuals. In quiet moments, Lila would sit and reflect on her path. She thought about the fears she had overcome, the risks she had taken, and the joy she had discovered in sharing her gift. She realized that her journey had not just been about music, but about learning to trust herself, to embrace her potential, and to inspire others through authenticity and courage. Lila understood that her voice was more than sound. It was a reflection of her heart, a bridge to others, and a reminder that greatness often lies within those who quietly cultivate their talents, waiting for the right moment to shine. In the E. And Lila's story was one of transformation, resilience, and inspiration. From a simple, quiet woman who had once feared attention, she had become someone who faced the world with courage, embraced her extraordinary gift, and touched the lives of countless people. Her journey showed that talent, when combined with self-belief, perseverance, and authenticity, could lead to remarkable outcomes. Lila's voice had not only changed her life, but had also become a source of hope and encouragement for others, leaving a lasting impact that would be remembered long after the notes faded.